In the 1960s, strict length limits capped a truck and trailer at 65 feet, which meant every inch the cab stole was cargo space and profit lost. So America's builders fought back with tall, flat-faced cabovers and lean, powerful haulers that squeezed maximum load out of minimum length. These were the big rigs that ruled the interstate in its wildest decade, the diesel-belching, gear-jamming giants of the 1960s highway. Some you know, some you've forgotten. All dominated. Count them down. Number 10, the Dodge L-Series. We start with the boldest gamble on this list. Dodge was always the smallest of Detroit's big three truck makers. But in the 1960s, the company decided it wanted a real piece of the long-haul big rig business, and it went for it. The centerpiece of that push arrived in 1964 with the Dodge L-Series cabover, the company's flat-faced, tilt-cab entry into the Class 8 world that the length laws had made so important. Alongside it, Dodge fielded a lineup of heavy conventional tractors aimed squarely at the highway hauler and the heavy vocational buyer. In Canada, these same trucks wore the Fargo badge. For the serious jobs, a Dodge big rig left the factory with the industry's proven heavy diesels. Cummins and Detroit diesel power under the cab mated to the multi-speed gearboxes that over-the-road work demanded. These were legitimate Class 8 machines, capable of pulling a loaded trailer coast to coast. The trouble was the competition. Kenworth, Peterbilt, Mack, White, and International had spent decades building loyalty among fleets and owner-operators, and Dodge, for all its engineering effort, could never quite crack that top tier in the heavy market. The company gave it one last shot in the mid-1970s with a rugged, Cummins-powered flagship called the Bighorn, but it was built only briefly and in tiny numbers, making it one of the rarest American Class 8 trucks ever produced. By 1975, Dodge walked away from the heavy truck business for good. Number 9. The Ford W-Series cabover. Ford had a similar problem to Dodge. It dominated pickups and medium-duty trucks, but in the world of heavy, long-haul Class 8 rigs, the blue oval was an outsider looking in. In 1966, Ford set out to change that with a proper big rig cabover, the W-Series. The W-Series replaced Ford's earlier oddball heavy cabover, the tall, tippy, two-story Falcon H-Series, with something far more competitive. This was a modern, flat-faced, tilt-cab Class 8 tractor, designed to go head-to-head with the established cabover kings on the interstate. It looked the part, and more importantly, it could be built the part. Ford knew that to be taken seriously in heavy trucking, it couldn't rely on its own engines alone. So the W-Series was offered with the big-bore diesels that long-haul operators trusted, power from Cummins, Detroit Diesel, and Caterpillar, backed by heavy-duty transmissions and axles. Now a fleet manager could spec a Ford that would run with anything on the road. Through the late 1960s and into the 70s, the W-Series gave Ford a real credible presence in the Class 8 cabover market for the first time. You'd see them hauling freight for national carriers and independents alike, their tall, boxy cabs blending right into the sea of cabovers that defined the era. It laid the groundwork for Ford's later, more ambitious heavy trucks, most notably the sleek CL-9000 cabover that arrived in 1978. Ford never toppled the specialists, but the W-Series proved the company could design and sell a legitimate big rig. For a manufacturer better known for half-ton pickups, that was no small feat. The W-Series is the truck that finally earned Ford a seat at the heavy hauling table, and it's a genuine, if underappreciated, big rig of the 1960s. Number 8. The Western Star. Our next big rig was born right at the end of the decade, and it was created to solve a very specific problem. Out west, in the mountains of the American and Canadian West Coast, truckers hauled brutal loads through logging country, oil fields, and steep grades, and they demanded two things above all: raw power and light weight, so they could legally carry more cargo. To serve them, the White Motor Company launched a brand new division in 1967 under the name White Western Star, setting up a fresh plant in Kelowna, British Columbia, while sharing headquarters with White back in Cleveland, Ohio. The mission was clear from day one: build premium, rugged, purpose-engineered trucks for the toughest work in the West. Early Western Stars borrowed cabs from White's sister company, Autocar. But the trucks quickly developed their own tough, no-compromise identity. They were specced with big power, and built around the belief that the driver was the most valuable part of the whole operation, a philosophy that made them favorites among the hardcore owner-operators who bought them. Western Star found its niche and never let go. In the demanding vocations of logging, mining, and oil, and across the vast distances of Western Canada, the brand earned a reputation for durability that has followed it ever since. And unlike so many names on this list, Western Star survived. When its parent White collapsed in 1980, Western Star was sold off separately and lived on, and today it continues as a respected premium truck brand. For a marque that launched in the final years of the 1960s, that's a remarkable legacy. Western Star arrived late to the decade's party, but it immediately staked out territory that the giants had underserved, building rugged Western workhorses that dominated the roughest corners of the continent. It's the youngest big rig on our list, and one of the toughest. Number 7. The Marmon, now for the most exclusive big rig of the entire decade, the truck they called the Rolls-Royce of the highway. In 1963, a new company called the Marmon Motor Company set up shop in Denton, Texas, and revived a proud old name. Marmon had once built luxurious high-end automobiles decades earlier, and the new truck company aimed to bring that same premium, no-expense-spared philosophy to the world of Class 8 rigs. What made a Marmon special was how it was built, essentially by hand. There was no mass production assembly line churning out identical trucks, and the company didn't build a single rig that hadn't already been ordered. Every Marmon was made to the exact specifications of the customer who bought it. If you wanted it a certain way, that's how it was built, right down to the trim level, with buyers able to step up into ever more opulent, feature-rich rigs. Because cabovers ruled the length-limited highways of the 1960s, early Marmon production focused heavily on cabover tractors, offered with a wide array of sleeper options. Starting in 1964, the company began building its cabs out of lightweight aluminum, and it powered its trucks with the finest available heavy diesels from Caterpillar, Cummins, and Detroit Diesel. The result was a truck of exceptional fit, finish, and quality, a genuine luxury item in a world of workaday haulers, and a coveted status symbol for the successful owner-operator. Truckers who ran a Marmon knew they were driving something rare and special. That exclusivity was also its weakness. Marmon never had the nationwide dealer network or the sheer volume of the big players, and in an overcrowded truck market, it always remained a low-production boutique builder. But that's precisely what made it legendary. To spot a hand-built Marmon on the interstate was to see the finest, most exclusive big rig money could buy, the rolling Rolls-Royce of 1960s trucking. Number 6. The Brockway Husky. From the hills of central New York comes one of the most beloved and rugged big rigs America ever produced, the Brockway Husky. Built in the town of Cortland, New York, Brockway trucks were so central to the local identity that Cortland proudly called itself Husky Town, USA, and every Brockway wore a distinctive hood ornament, not a bulldog, but a husky dog straining against its pulling harness. Brockway had been hand-building tough custom trucks in Cortland since the early days of the automobile, and in 1956 it was purchased by Mack Trucks. Crucially though, Mack let Brockway operate as an autonomous division, building its own distinct trucks rather than being swallowed into the Mack lineup. That independence preserved everything that made a Brockway a Brockway. The company's most celebrated era kicked off with the all-new Husky line, launched for the 1958 model year, and it carried Brockway right through the heart of the 1960s. These were premium, heavy-duty trucks assembled to each customer's specifications, and they built a fierce reputation for toughness. In fact, Overdrive magazine famously dubbed the Brockway the most rugged truck in the world, a title the brand's devoted fans still repeat with pride. Brockway kept innovating throughout the decade, too. In 1962, it landed a major contract to supply heavy trucks to the U.S. Navy and Air Force, and in 1967, it introduced its own Husky driveline technology. These were serious, capable machines, and they earned a loyalty among northeastern truckers that bordered on devotion, because Brockway shared some components with parent Mack. A Husky could look at a glance a little like a Mack until you spotted that Husky on the hood instead of a bulldog, the tell that told everyone you were running something rarer, and its fans would argue, tougher. Sadly, the story didn't have a happy ending. After more than a century of truck and carriage building, bitter labor disputes led Mack to close the Brockway plant in 1977, and the marque died. But the legend never faded. Cortland still holds an annual Brockway truck show that draws Huskies and their fans from all over. In an age of consolidation, the Brockway Husky stands as a monument to the hand-built, take-no-prisoners American work truck, a true big rig and a true original. Number 5. The Mack F-Series cabover. Everyone knows Mack for its bulldog tough conventional trucks, but in the length-obsessed 1960s, Mack needed a serious cabover to compete on the long-haul highway, and in 1962 it delivered one. The Mack F-Series was the company's flat-faced cab-over engine Class 8 tractor, and it brought that legendary Mack durability to the cab-over game. The F model was significant for Mack because it was the first member of a completely new family of trucks the company rolled out during the 1960s, the leading edge of a lineup that would soon include the famous R-Series conventional. The F-Series featured an all-steel cab and was offered in both sleeper and non-sleeper configurations, ready for everything from regional freight to coast-to-coast hauling. What set Mack apart from nearly every rival was that it built its own engines and transmissions in-house, rather than buying them from outside suppliers. So an F-Series could be powered by Mack's own tough Thermodyne diesels. And midway through the decade, Mack unleashed a genuine revolution that transformed its entire lineup. The Maxodyne engine, introduced in 1960. The Maxodyne was a high-torque rise diesel that made strong power across an unusually wide range of engine speeds, and it changed the game. A heavy truck that used to need 10 or more gears could suddenly get by with a simple 5-speed transmission. It was easier to drive, lighter and more efficient, and it became a massive Mack advantage. Riding on those innovations, the F-Series cabover became a common and respected sight on American highways throughout the 60s, hauling hard and shrugging off punishment the way only a Mack could. It let the Bulldog compete in the one arena where its beloved conventionals couldn't, the tight-quartered, length-limited world of the long-haul cabover. The Mack F-Series may live in the shadow of its conventional cousins, but it was a genuine 1960s highway warrior, packing Mack toughness and groundbreaking Mack engineering into a flat-faced package built to dominate the interstate. It absolutely earns a top 5 spot. Number 4. The Peterbilt 352. If you picture a classic West Coast cabover, tall, square, aluminum, and gleaming, you're very likely picturing a Peterbilt 352. Introduced in 1959 and running strong right through the 1960s, the 352 was Peterbilt's Class 8 cabover engine tractor, and it defined the look of Peterbilt's cabovers for the next 3 decades. The 352 was a genuine milestone for the company. It replaced the older, non-tilting 351 cabover and became Peterbilt's first tilt cab COE. The whole cab pivoting forward to give a mechanic full access to the engine, a huge practical advantage on a truck that spent its life earning money. It rode on Peterbilt's lightweight, hand-tooled aluminum Unilight cab with a 90-degree tilt, wrapped in what the company marketed as its panoramic SAF T-cab. Truckers loved it. That aluminum construction kept weight down, meaning more legal payload and more profit, while Peterbilt's famous build quality made the 352 a premium aspirational rig, especially among the independent owner-operators of the West. Spec'd with big Cummins, Detroit diesel, or Caterpillar power, the 352 could haul anything, anywhere, and look fantastic doing it. The truck was so successful that by the time it hit its 10th anniversary in 1969, Peterbilt did something it almost never did. It gave the model an actual name instead of just a number. An in-house naming contest produced the title Pacemaker, and the employee who came up with it reportedly won a color television for the honor. Under both the 352 and Pacemaker banners, the design would remain in production all the way to 1981, making it the longest-produced truck in Peterbilt's history. The Peterbilt 352 is the cabover that so many truckers dreamed of owning, a rolling symbol of West Coast trucking at its finest. Through the entire golden age of the cabover, it was one of the most desirable and iconic big rigs on the highway. It's a rock-solid number 4. Number 3. The Kenworth K100 Whopper. Kenworth's long-nosed conventional may be the most famous truck the company ever built. But in the 1960s, on the length-limited interstate, the truck that truly dominated for Kenworth was its cabover, the mighty K100, affectionately known to truckers everywhere as the K-Whopper. Kenworth introduced the K100 in 1961, the very same year it launched its iconic conventional flagship, and the cabover replaced Kenworth's older bullnose COE. Built at Kenworth's plant in Renton, Washington, the K-Whopper was a tall, flat-faced tilt-cab Class 8 tractor engineered for exactly the kind of long-haul work the era demanded, squeezing a full-size sleeper and a big diesel into the shortest possible package so operators could run longer trailers and heavier loads. Like its West Coast rivals, the K100 was a premium machine, built to Kenworth's exacting standards and beloved by the drivers who ran them. It could be ordered with the full range of heavy diesel power, and its roomy cab and rugged construction made it a favorite for coast-to-coast freight. Over time, it only grew more legendary. Kenworth later topped it with the famous raised-roof Aerodyne sleeper, and cabovers just like it became bona fide television stars, cementing the K-Whopper's place in trucking's pop culture golden age. The K100 represents Kenworth doing what Kenworth does best, building a no-compromise, driver-focused big rig that operators were proud to own. While the conventional Kenworths grabbed the magazine covers, it was cabovers like the K100 that did the heavy lifting on America's length-restricted highways throughout the 1960s and beyond. And because that flat cab sat right over the front axle, the K-Whopper offered something the long-nosed trucks couldn't: superb forward visibility and a tight turning radius, prized by drivers threading through city streets and mountain switchbacks alike. Tall, tough, and unmistakable, the K-Whopper was one of the defining cabovers of its time, and a truck that owner-operators lusted after. As a big rig that genuinely dominated the long-haul highways of the era, the Kenworth K100 rolls into our number 3 spot with authority. Number 2. The White 9000 and the White Empire. Here's the giant that most people completely overlook. Ask someone to name the big truck brands of the 1960s and they'll say Kenworth, Peterbilt, or Mack. But at the time, the single most powerful force in American heavy trucks was the White Motor Company of Cleveland, Ohio. White was a titan. At its peak in the 1950s and 60s, the White organization didn't just build its own trucks. It owned an astonishing collection of legendary brands, including Autocar, Sterling, REO, and Diamond T, and it distributed Freightliner's cabovers through its dealer network as well. Add it all up, and the White Empire was the largest commercial vehicle producer in the entire United States. When you drove the interstate in the 1960s, an enormous share of the big rigs you passed traced back, one way or another, to White. At the heart of White's own lineup sat the White 9000 series, the backbone of the company's conventional heavy-duty range through the 1960s and 1970s. The 9000 was a true workhorse, sold as both a highway tractor and a straight truck, and it turned up everywhere, pulling freight down the interstate, hauling for construction outfits, and grinding away in dump truck service. White backed it with the industry's trusted diesel power from Cummins and Detroit Diesel, and it shared its rugged, no-nonsense engineering with sister brands across the White family. There was nothing flashy about a White 9000. It was built to work, to last, and to earn its keep year after year. And that's exactly what it did, in fleets all across the country. It was the quiet, dependable muscle of American industry. White's story stretched back to 1900, when the company began remarkably building steam-powered vehicles in Cleveland, before growing into one of the most important truck manufacturers America ever produced. By the 1960s, it was an institution, and it wielded its power by letting each of its acquired brands keep its own identity while sharing engineering underneath. That's why a White, an Autocar, and a Western Star of the era could feel like cousins. They drew on the same deep well of White design. It was a sprawling, complicated empire, and for a couple of decades it sat at the very center of the industry. The White Motor Company doesn't get the glory that the West Coast specialists enjoy today. But in the 1960s, it was the beating heart of American trucking, a sprawling empire whose trucks and brands dominated the roads. The White 9000, and the giant behind it more than earned the number 2 spot. Number 1, the International Emeryville DCO 405, and at number 1, the truck that literally dominated the sales charts. A big rig most modern viewers have never even heard of. Meet the International Emeryville, the cabover that outsold every other truck in America. The name comes from International Harvester's factory in Emeryville, California, where the company built its West Coast trucks. In 1957, International introduced a sleek, modern cabover engine cab known as the DCO 405, and the trucks built around it became known simply as Emeryvilles. They rolled out of California, but they quickly spread across the entire country as fleets discovered just how good they were. And here's the fact that seals the #1 spot. During the 1960s, the International Emeryville was the top-selling truck in all of America for 4 straight years. Not the Kenworth, not the Peterbilt, not the Mack, the Emeryville. International Harvester was, at the time, the #1 selling big truck brand in the country. And this flat-faced cabover was the tip of the spear. When we're talking about the big rig that truly dominated the 1960s, this is the one, by the numbers. The Emeryville earned its success honestly. It was a modern, capable cabover, specced with turbocharged Cummins power and the multi-speed gearboxes needed to conquer the mountains of the West. And out on the coast, you'd even see them in wild dromedary configurations with a cargo box mounted behind the cab. They were tough, practical, and everywhere. International kept the formula fresh, replacing the original Emeryville in 1965 with the larger, wider CO 4000, distinguished by a bold trapezoidal grille that would define international cabovers for decades and eventually evolve into the famous TranStar. But it was the original Emeryville that ruled the heart of the decade. Those California-built trucks came out of the Emeryville plant until 1963, when International shifted West Coast production a little further south to San Leandro. But the Emeryville name stuck to the design for the rest of its life, a badge of honor from the truck's Bay Area birthplace. There's a lesson in that dominance too. International Harvester wasn't a boutique truck builder chasing owner-operators with chrome and custom paint. It was an industrial powerhouse that also built farm tractors, construction equipment, and pickups with a dealer and parts network that blanketed the country. That reach is a big part of why the Emeryville sold in such staggering numbers. Wherever a trucker went, there was an International dealer who could keep him rolling. So while the flashy West Coast conventionals get all the love today, the truck that actually dominated the 1960s highway, the best-selling big rig in the land, was International's humble, hard-working Emeryville. And that makes it, without question, our #1. Which of these forgotten giants surprised you the most? Did you know the Emeryville outsold them all? Or did you ride in a white, a Brockway, or a K-Whopper back in the day? Drop your memories and your favorite in the comments and tell me which lost trucking legend you'd like to see roll across the screen next.